good, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Let the doors be open, que l'on ouvre les portes. Statements by members, déclaration de députés. The honourable member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today and want to start by thanking my friend, the Member of Parliament for Medicine Hat, Carsten Warner, because it's rare that an SO31 so hits home that I decide I better put it on my social media page. The honourable member's SO31 dealt with one theme, and that was kindness. How can we be kinder to each other? I think in the last week we've seen some moments that we regret, some moments where things are said and postures are taken that suggest to Canadians that we're not people worth emulating, those they elect to represent them in this place. And I think sometimes which would affect us more, to think our mothers are watching or to know our children are watching. Words not said often enough in this place are, I was wrong, I'm sorry. My honourable friend, the Member of Parliament for Grand Prairie Mackenzie, brought me up short by telling me how some words I'd said in the media, carelessly. I completely agree with what the Member of Parliament for London Fanshawe said in her point of order, but I also told the same reporter I'd agreed with what the Member for Calgary Rocky Ridge had said. But it never gets reported exactly the way you say it, and I should know better. So I just wanted to share with all of you here, let's be kind, let's be loving, and let's enjoy a Christmas of peace.
The honourable member for Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this summer millions of Canadians cheered on Team Canada at the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Paralympic swimmer Sebastian Masabi smashed the world record and brought the gold home to Surrey. Canadian athletes give it their all to represent our country, so Budget 2024 boosts our support for them with more pay for our athletes as they train to represent Team Canada. But unfortunately for weeks, the Conservatives have blocked these funds and prevented these payments to our athletes. I ask the Conservative colleagues to be honest with Team Canada today. Will you support Canadian athletes by voting for our plan, or will you continue to oppose them? Thank you.
The honourable member for Regina Leuven.
This is my favorite time of year, for two reasons. First, the Christmas spirit can be seen everywhere you look. And second, Regina hosts my favorite event. Every year at the end of November, Regina becomes a destination for everything agriculture. The 53rd Canadian Western Agribition was once again a resounding success. Folks from around the globe gathered to Regina to take in the world-class livestock shows, the trade shows, and the rodeo. This year featured 130 major events, including 4 nights of rodeo, the Indigenous Agriculture Summit, the Canadian Animal Ag Tech Awards, and the 25th year of the RBC Beef Supreme Champion. Agribition holds a special place in my heart because our family showed hostings there for 25 straight years. It is our family's winter holiday. The barns are where I learned many life lessons, some the hard way, and made many lifelong friends. I want to congratulate CEO Sean Kindop and his whole team on once again hosting a world-class event and bringing agriculture to the world and displaying proudly what we do in the ag sector. Here.
The honourable member for Bonavista Burin Trinity.
Mr. Speaker, there's a Grinch impersonation contest. Time, right now. Location, the Conservative benches. Mr. Speaker, our government is giving a tax break to all Canadians by exempting essentials like groceries, restaurant meals, children's clothing and gifts from the GST. This includes snacks, sandwiches and other prepared foods as well as beer and wine. The Conservatives pretend they want lower taxes, but when push comes to shove, they vote against tax exemptions for Canadians. They want family essentials such as car seats, diapers, and children's toys to be more expensive, Mr. Speaker. Talk about a heart is 2 sizes too small. We won't listen to these Grinches, Mr. Speaker. Starting December 14th, These items will be tax-free, and Canadians will be able to keep more of their money in their pockets.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille. Mr. Speaker, retired officers Leanne Quinn and Hélène Solaire found unforgivable errors on 2 statues that honour Canadian soldiers who died in battle near the military base in Trenton. The bronze work entitled Presence in Absence is meant to honour 67 soldiers for their ultimate sacrifice. But, surprise, surprise, the 2 veterans found their names there. And these are not the only errors on this statue. Out of 67 soldiers who were identified, only 20 made the ultimate sacrifice. 12 are still alive, and 4 have never served in the military. But no one noticed this at the inauguration in 2022. In fact, neither the living dead in question nor their families were invited. What a lack of respect to everyone who has lost their lives serving Canada. The Minister owes the veterans explanations and especially apologies. Visibly, after this fiasco and that of the Afghanistan commemorative statue, it is clear that Ottawa is monumentally incompetent.
The Honourable Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, December 3rd, was the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. People with disabilities are the largest minority group within Canada and worldwide, and the only minority group that anyone can become a member of at any time. This group faces stigma, discrimination, and barriers to basic rights and services. They are more likely to experience poverty and are disproportionately impacted by climate, disasters, conflict, and an increasing cost of living. It's important their voices are included in all conversations. More than 1 in 4 Canadians have 1 or more disabilities, Mr. Speaker, with mental health-related disabilities the most prominent among youth. Our government has been working to support Canadians with disabilities through the development of a Canada Disability Benefit, the Autism National Framework, and funding for mental health service delivery. I am grateful to community groups in my riding, such as CMHA York Service, York Simcoe, Community Living Central York, Lighthouse Learning Centre in Carey's Place, and the Child Disability Network of Canada, who advocate and work to support people living with disabilities. I'd also like to mention Voices of Joy, a choir for people of all abilities who gave a wonderful holiday concert. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Grief, an emotion I never truly understood until this year. Grief does not change you, it reveals you. You will become someone it would have been impossible for you to be, and in this way, your loved one lives on in you. Everyone loves, and everyone has loss. Grief is universal, a sacred process, yet it is so unique. We all cope differently. You will not get over the loss of a loved one. You will learn to courageously adapt. This is my first Christmas without my dad. I know he would want us to make the turtles, sing Silent Night, put the lights up outside, and decorate the tree with ornaments that represent our collective memories, losses, prayers, hopes, and holiday wishes. This Christmas season, reach out to those who need a hug. Let them know you care. Speak the names of those you have lost and know that their memories will never fade away as long as we refuse to let them. Grief is not a sign of weakness, nor a lack of faith. It's the price of love.
Excellent.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Granville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to honour 3 extraordinary Paralympians from my riding of Vancouver Granville: Nathan Clement, Peter Sherwood, and Julia Haynes. In particular, I'd like to highlight Nathan Clement, because this summer Nathan took home the silver medal from the Paris Paralympic Games, the men's T1 individual road time trial. He was also a swimmer at the Rio Paralympics and holds the Canadian record in the 50-meter butterfly. Meeting Nathan was an incredible reminder of his dedication and commitment to competition and community, which has inspired so many of us. Through my own work, Mr. Speaker, I have seen the privilege of experiencing firsthand the power of sports and bringing us together, but these Paralympians are absolutely something else, and it is such a privilege to be able to rise in this House and on behalf of all of us, congratulate not just Nathan, Julia, and Peter, but every single Paralympian who has made us so very proud. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Team Canada is in the House of Commons today. Our best athletes, Olympians and Paralympians from across the country are here so we can all congratulate them on their success and thank them for representing Canada so well. From Milton, we've got Michael Foley, who's a track cyclist, and Kayla Alexander, who's an amazing basketball player. But Mr. Speaker, I was one of these athletes 8 years ago. I walked out onto this carpet and imagined what my next steps would be, and here I am. I'm really proud to be part of a government that supports our athletes. We've invested an incremental $80 million into the Community Sport for All program, and we're the first and only government to increase the athlete assistance program 2 times. So all of these athletes here will be celebrating better affordability when it comes to their day-to-day. Mr. Speaker, the Olympians and Paralympians from Canada are the best of us. They are our best ambassadors, they're our greatest role models, and I'm proud to be part of a government that supports each and every one of them from the playground all the way to the podium. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Toronto St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the carbon tax is draining the pockets of Canadians and has failed to meet a single emissions target. Anyone can see that this is a failed policy. Even Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie. She said in a speech last night, and I quote, "I'm not here to tell the Prime Minister how to do his job, but I promise you, I will tell him when he is wrong, like on the carbon tax," end quote. And Mr. Speaker, I completely agree. It's wrong for the Prime Minister to punish Canadians with his heartless carbon tax that devalues workers' paychecks. It's wrong to drive up the cost of living. It's wrong to vandalize our economy. Crombie's statement is not only a political critique, it's a recognition that everyday Canadians struggle in so many ways. People shouldn't have to choose between feeding their families and heating their homes this winter. Yet, in the new year, the NDP Liberal government will hike the carbon tax yet again. When will this Prime Minister give Canadians real and lasting relief and realize that the carbon tax is flat out wrong?
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for St. Laurent. Mr. Speaker, this past summer, millions of Canadians cheered on Team Canada at the Olympic and Paralympic Games in Paris. And I'd like to commend all of them, including Sophia Ferry, a Paralympic basketball player, who has showed the perseverance and devotion necessary to succeed. The path from playground to podium is long and arduous, and our athletes have to train for years. The Liberal government is proud to support over 1,900 athletes as part of the Athlete Assistance Program, and it is also proud to enhance this program in order to provide more funding to more athletes. The additional $7 million per year will increase the living allowance by 23% and the Paralympic athlete allowance by 30%. Unfortunately, the Conservatives are blocking these funds and preventing these payments to athletes. They should allow Parliament to get back to work so we can invest in our athletes. Thank you.
If I could ask honourable members to please keep their voices down. Je vais demander aux députés, s'il vous plaît, d'être tranquilles pour écouter ces déclarations des députés. The honourable member from Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, on Sunday, an Oakville man with a lengthy criminal record was arrested and charged with a violent home invasion, prompting the Halton police chief to tweet, and I quote, "Yet another violent offender already out on similar and violent charges with court conditions. Is anyone surprised that some of these violent offenders reoffend? Over and over and over again, our citizens deserve better. This offender needs to remain in custody to keep others safe." End of quote. Again and again and again, Mr. Speaker, law enforcement across this nation are expressing the dire need to fix Canada's broken bail system. However, the Liberals are ignoring their concerns and are completely out of touch when it comes to community safety. The Liberals' soft-on-crime policies, like their catch-and-release bail failures, have led to a 50% increase in violent crime across Canada. Canadians deserve to be safe in their communities, and police deserve to be heard. Enough is enough. It's time for the NDP Liberals to get out of the way so Conservatives can stop the crime and prioritize public safety.
There you go. Excellent.
The honourable member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, there's only one person keeping this Liberal government in power, and that's the NDP leader. He has repeatedly chosen to prop up the Liberals, aid their corruption, and facilitate the economic misery of Canadians caused by 9 years of this Liberal Prime Minister. The NDP leader broke his promise to vote non-confidence in the Liberal government. In his own words, the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for the people, end quote. The NDP leader continues to support the Liberals even though they have doubled housing costs, tripled the carbon tax, and sent millions of Canadians to the food bank. Why won't the NDP leader stand by his words, vote no confidence in this government, so that we can have a carbon tax?
The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to talk about a very special paradox of Canadian politics. For years, the Conservative leader and his party have lectured Canadians on the virtues of reducing taxes. And yet, when this government slashes the GST in order to put more money in the pockets of Canadians, what do? They vote against it. It's as if a chef refused to eat his own cooking. The leader of the opposition claims to be the champion of affordability, but when he has the opportunity to support real, concrete assistance for Canadians, he refuses to do so. Mr. Speaker, this is not about politics, it's about priorities, and it is clear that the Conservatives' priorities are just as lost as their sense of irony. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député d'Algoma.
The honourable member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing.
Mr. Speaker, Juanita Bigwans, also known as Winnie, a 30-year-old First Nation woman from Chaging First Nation, has been missing since October 2nd. Her family, friends, and the police fear she may have been taken by drug or human traffickers or worse. Last year, I stood in this House to decry the lack of resources provided to Indigenous policing. UCCM Anishinaabeg Police are doing all they can, but they need dedicated crime units to deal with increased human and drug trafficking. Juanita's case is a tragic reminder of the ongoing crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. We must immediately recognize First Nations police as essential services and fund them at a level that is equitable with all other non-Indigenous police services. We must provide Indigenous people with the resources and the development of a national missing Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, and gender-diverse people database that can be shared throughout Canada via a downloadable app. And we must ensure that the Red Dress Alert is launched nationally. No more missing sisters, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Today I would like to pay tribute to Ms. Lucille Riendeau-Houle, who is a writer and genealogist from my community. She raised her children, and then Ms. Riendeau-Houle decided to write her story, not through her own past, but through those of her ancestors. With great talent, she published 7 books presenting the Riendeau-Hubert-Lesage families. This look into our past allows us to discover how our original ancestors lived. Her books are sold in the United States and in Europe, and they brought her the Medal of the Quebec Lieutenant Governor in 2022 for her contribution to our genealogy and her community involvement with I Write My Life and the Anna LaBerge Foundation. Ms. Riendeau-Houle is 82 and fighting cancer, but she still writes every single day to celebrate the memory of those who went before us. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to pay tribute to her contribution to transmitting the history of Quebec. Thank you, Ms. Riendeau-Houle.
The honourable member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, the sellout NDP leader has once again betrayed Canadians by siding with the Liberals to prop up this failing government, all to secure his $2.2 million pension. He's going to reject a motion of non-confidence in this government based entirely on his own words, and I quote, "The Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people," end of quote. Yet it's his party who keeps the Prime Minister in power through their carbon tax coalition. Under this deal, housing costs have skyrocketed, rent, mortgage payments, and down payments have doubled. The sellout leader has voted in favor of the carbon tax over 24 times and plans to quadruple it, driving up costs for gas, groceries, and heating. Food bank use at an all-time high, with 1 million Ontarians relying on food banks. Canadians deserve leaders who will fight for them, not a coalition of self-interest and betrayal. It's time to end the deal of failure, put Canadians first. It's time for a carbon tax coalition.
The honourable member for Humber River Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's security is everyone's concern. This week, there have been more alarming reports of foreign interference in the Conservative leadership race. Yet the leader of the Conservative Party is the only party leader who still refuses to obtain the necessary security clearance to access classified documents on foreign governments' political interference activities in Canada. And Canadians are asking why. What does the leader of the Conservative Party have to hide? And if the leader feels he has nothing to hide, why doesn't he get the clearance, take the briefing, and protect our country?
Oral questions. Questions orales. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Coming in
this Prime Minister is weak, and he has lost control. He has lost control of the border, of immigration, and of spending. And now he has lost control of his own party. The Ontario Premier is against these tax hikes. The leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, so is the Liberal Premier of Nova Scotia against these attacks on natural resources. And dozens of Liberal MPs want to fire this Prime Minister. How can he still be hanging on to power? He's lost control. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our caucus is unified when it comes to delivering for Canadians with a tax holiday for all Canadians over the coming months. Although several Conservatives wanted to vote for that tax holiday, but it was blocked by their leader. He's gagging the members of his own caucus and preventing them from representing their constituents here in Ottawa. And instead, he's asking them to represent him in their ridings. That's not how it works, Mr. Speaker. And on this side of the House, we will always stand up for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister cannot stand up because he's lost control. I already said that he's lost control of our borders, of immigration. He's lost control of these inflationary deficits that have doubled the national debt, the cost of housing, and the number of people who need to go to food banks. But he promised that he would cap the deficit at $40 billion. Next week, in the economic statement, will the Prime Minister respect that promise? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in due course, we will present the economic statement, and the Conservative Party will likely vote against it, because in it there will be initiatives to help Canadians during this difficult time. There will be investment in economic growth, throughout the country, and yet the Conservative leader doesn't want to do anything that might help Canadians. He prefers to spend all his energy on jostling for his own political interests, which means he's not helping Canadians when they need help. That's why he voted against the tax break and against dental care and against Canadians.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
This week, Prime Minister has lost control of everything. He's lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, lost control of spending, and now has lost control of his cabinet and party. In fact, his foreign minister is now announcing her leadership campaign in the New York Times. The Liberal leader of the province of Ontario has announced she's against his quadrupling carbon tax. The Liberal Premier of Newfoundland is against his job-killing energy cap, and 20 of his MPs want to fire him. How is it that he clings to power when he's lost control?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We can all see that the leader of the opposition has trouble with the ideas that individuals might have different perspectives, and that might be a good thing for a robust political party like the Liberal Party of Canada and all its partners across the country. The leader of the opposition refuses to let his backbenchers or any of his team members have any opinions at all. Indeed, he sanctioned them and wrote a letter in their name decrying their advocacy for their own citizens in their communities when it came to delivering money for mayors for housing from coast to coast to coast. He stands for muzzling his MPs. We stand for diversity.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Diversity of opinions, I guess that means the opinion that he should not be Prime Minister. That's the predominant opinion among Liberals across the country. On the front page of the New York Times, you'd think the Foreign Minister would be fighting Trump's tariffs. Instead, she's fighting for her boss's job, where she's described in the headline as a possible successor after she sat down for a photo shoot and made the case. This on top of a Liberal leader in Ontario who's against his quadrupling carbon tax, a Liberal Premier in Newfoundland who opposes his job-killing energy cap. Why won't the Prime Minister get the point? His party doesn't want him anymore.
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Let's talk, Mr. Speaker, about standing up for Canada. One of the things we've seen throughout our history, when Canada is threatened, when it's challenged with a crisis, when people want ill of Canadians, Canadians pull together across partisan stripes, across backgrounds, across the country to stand up for our neighbors, to stand up for Canadians. That's certainly what we were able to do as a country 8 years ago. Unfortunately, this basic Canadian attribute seems unavailable to that leader of the opposition who can't help himself on playing politics with Canadians' well-being.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this is from a Prime Minister who is helping Donald Trump take away our jobs. You can just imagine the President in the Oval Office calling our businesses to say, hey, I saw that you have a quadrupling carbon tax north of the border. Why not come south of the border where there's no carbon tax and other taxes are falling? How about the latest electricity tax the Prime Minister is bringing in that will drive factories south of the border, or his energy cap that will drive away our resource companies? I understand why President Trump wants to take Canadian jobs, but why is this Prime Minister trying to help him do it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The problem for the Leader of the Opposition is Canadians increasingly see through his shallow partisan games. If he actually cared about helping Canadians and cutting taxes, he wouldn't have voted against taking off the sales tax for Canadians for the next few months. Right. But he wants Canadians to continue to struggle because it benefits him politically, perhaps, instead of actually being there to solve the challenges Canadians are facing. That's why he voted against dental care for seniors. That's why he voted against a school food program. That's why he's voting against a sales tax break for Canadians for the next few months. That's not on, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec National Assembly unanimously adopted a motion to ask the federal government to put an end to the religious exception for hate speech. Now, everyone here has also at one time or another voted for the end of this religious exception. And that makes sense because it is just and necessary to get rid of that exception? Will the Prime Minister move forward now and get rid of this religious exception to incitation to hate and violence? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the Bloc Québécois really wanted to do something about incitement to hate crimes, he would be doing something about this conservative filibuster in this House so that we can finally debate the Bloc Québécois bill that he's talking about, so that we can debate our bill for protecting children online. There are a number of measures that we would be happy to debate so that we can help Canadians, so that we can reduce hate speech. But unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois is not putting an end to this conservative filibuster.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Mais c'était limpide.
The honourable member. Well, that was very clear, Mr. Speaker. But we know that we know that 66% of Canadians and 75% of Quebecers want to put an end to this religious exception. Will the government remove 2 sections of the Criminal Code? Will the Prime Minister put his money where his mouth is? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would be so happy if we were here in this House discussing these important issues. Too many Canadians are facing hate and discrimination these days. And we want this Parliament to be able to debate the problem and bring forward legislation to fix the problem. But unfortunately, the Conservatives are continuing to block the work of this House, and the Bloc Québécois is not doing anything about it.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
The Conservatives showed us who they really are. They voted against tax relief for the working class. And the Liberals want to jack up taxes on the 15th. New Democrats believe the working class needs permanent relief. So will the Prime Minister permanently exempt the GST off of daily essentials like a kid's winter jacket?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're actually moving forward to suspend the sales tax for Canadians so that they can afford the basic necessities that they will need, whether it's fresh-made produce whether it's fresh-made products at the groceries, whether it's dinner at a restaurant or even a fast food place for the family. These are things that Canadians will find less expensive over the coming months. Unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to vote against measures that will help Canadians. They stand against this tax break for all Canadians, like they stand against dental care, school food programs, and many other things to help Canadians.
L'honorable député de Burnaby Sud.
Why were the Conservatives chirping? They proved that bootlickers are billionaires.
Families will still need to eat after February 15th. But the GST will be going back up on February 15th.
Order! I'm having great difficulty hearing the honourable member from Burnaby South. The honourable member from Burnaby South.
Why are these Conservatives chirping so much? They've proven that they are bootlickers for billionaires.
Families will still need to eat after February 15th, but that day, the Prime Minister will once again increase the GST. Just another Liberal letdown. Why does the Prime Minister think that people should have to keep paying GST on children's clothes and diapers? Why?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Our tax break over the next few months will help families throughout the country. It will help them with what they need to buy at the grocery store because groceries, restaurant visits, wine and beer, all sorts of things that we'll be spending on over the next few months, all of these things will be cheaper, tax-free. That's our way of telling Canadians that we see that they're struggling, but we are here to invest and help them. Unlike the Conservatives, who have voted against assistance to Canadians, against the tax break, and against dental care.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he's taking taxes off of fresh-made produce. He really does. He really does think that food comes from the grocery store, not from the farmers who actually grow the produce. That's why he, I guess, thinks he can carbon tax those farmers without taxing the food. And then you have his friend, the Maserati Marxist over there in the. Canadians are out of money. How about a carbon tax election?
Colleagues, order. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition had the opportunity to axe the sales tax for Canadians, and he voted against it and forced his MPs to do exactly the same. He is only interested in his own political self-interest, not interested in helping Canadians, either with a tax break for the next few months, or with dental care for vulnerable seniors across the country, or with more school food programs that will help kids and parents afford their groceries. These are the kinds of things we're doing. These are exactly the things that he is blocking.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says he's going to leave the economy to bankers. He says he doesn't think much about monetary policy, the budgets balance themselves, and that he's not very good with numbers, but he did get one thing right. He said that deficits cause inflation. So did his finance minister right before she introduced his budget, saying no deficit above $40 billion. So, straight up question, will the Prime Minister keep his word and cap the inflationary deficit below $40 billion?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I know the Leader of the Opposition is eager for our fall economic statement. If he really wants to see it, he could perhaps stop the obstruction of Parliament to allow us to move forward on dealing with Canadians and challenges that they are facing. But it's interesting that he brought up inflation once again. He stopped talking about inflation after years of railing about it because we did the work to actually bring it down, Mr. Speaker. We invested in programs that were there to support Canadians, but that didn't contribute to inflation. Inflation is now back down in the target range. Interest rates are coming down. That's why we can give a tax break to Canadians. That's why we're there.
I'm going to ask colleagues to please not take the floor unless recognized by the Speaker so that we can both hear and that people who do use translation can hear the answers to the questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, inflation is rising. After the inflationary spending of this Prime Minister, in fact, all four measures of inflation are higher than the Bank of Canada's target rate. And this Prime Minister's electioneering and inflationary spending will make it harder for the Bank of Canada to reduce interest rates. Interest rates on Canadians who are already struggling to pay for food and housing. Once again, this Prime Minister said he would cap his inflationary deficits at $40 billion. Will he do that? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, over the last few years, we have invested in measures to help Canadians who are struggling, whether it be dental care, whether it be more child care spaces, whether it be school food programs. These investments were all made to help Canadians. But despite these programs, inflation is nonetheless back within the Bank of Canada's target range. Now, we are bringing forward a tax break for all Canadians. But the Conservative Party is voting against that because they only care about partisanship.
The results are in on the Prime Minister's radical liberalization of hard drugs. He teamed up with the BC NDP to decriminalize fentanyl, crack, and heroin. He lowered jail sentences for mass producers of deadly fentanyl. And 80% of the fentanyl made in Canada is done so using ingredients that are not even regulated, but come right into our country where they're cooked into that poison, now threatening our trade relationship with the U.S. Will he reverse his radical liberal drug agenda to save lives and jobs?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, we've seen that the Conservative leader's answer to this terrible tragedy hitting so many Canadians with the toxic drug epidemic is to stand for photo ops in front of encampments and try to use them for cheap votes. Exploiting Canadians is not the way to move forward. We've anchored ourselves in science, in working in partnership with municipalities, with frontline workers, with provinces, working with the United States on precursor chemicals, working to invest in supports, wraparound supports, including housing for people suffering from homelessness and the drug crisis. We will continue to be there for people.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The results are in. His radical liberalization of hard drugs has led to a 200% increase in overdose deaths. 47,000 people have died. The worst deaths have been in NDP-controlled BC, where the liberalization has been the most extreme. Worse, he's allowing 80% of the precursor chemicals used to make fentanyl come in unregulated and legally over our border to be used by criminals who get out because he softened the sentences. Now our trade relationship is threatened over it. Will he reverse this disastrous experiment to save the jobs and the lives of Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what has become increasingly clear through the Leader of the Opposition's little performances is he doesn't actually care about Canadians and about people suffering. He is there for a clip, he's there for a photo op, but he's not there to do the work of delivering based on science, based on compassion, based on a public health approach on dealing with the toxic drug epidemic. He is instead continuing to try to score cheap political points on the backs of the most vulnerable. That's not serious. That's not responsible, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, what is not responsible is allowing 80% of the chemicals used in fentanyl manufacturing to come in unregulated and legally. What is not responsible is decriminalizing crack, heroin, and fentanyl, and then after you see that it leads to a massive increase in deaths, then 2 weeks ago, he, the Bloc, and the NDP all voted in favor of a committee report to decriminalize fentanyl right across the country at a time when Canadians are dying and our border could be closed. Will the Prime Minister confirm that he has reversed himself and now opposes decriminalization of fentanyl?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we see the priority of the Leader of the Opposition is to exploit and use Canadians who are suffering to score cheap political points. Meanwhile, we do the serious work amongst parliamentarians across different orders of government with partners around the world to address this in a way that is grounded in science, not ideology, that works with frontline workers, makes investments in wraparound services, and puts everything forward to try and save lives as best we possibly can. That's what Canadians deserve, not the kind of cheap partisanship that this Leader of the Opposition continues to demonstrate every time he stands up in this House. It is absolutely irresponsible.
Then I have
the Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, I feel the Prime Minister doesn't understand how serious this situation is. The National Assembly of Quebec voted unanimously for an end to the religious exception, and the Jewish community in Quebec and Canada is afraid. Due to the federal government's lack of action, people can openly incite to violence against the Jewish community. So if the Prime Minister shows that he's serious, we will also be serious. If he says that he's willing to do something about this, we will unblock Parliament for 24 hours. Order, please. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we see that the Bloc Québécois is open to doing something here, but we would like to see that kind of readiness when it comes to other initiatives. For example, improving the healthcare system for the most vulnerable, which is blocked due to conservative filibustering. Same thing for dental care, also blocked by the Conservatives. Or we would like them to help us be able to work on our online harms bill, C-63, which would protect people throughout the country, especially children. We would like to be able to debate all these things in Parliament, but unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois is continuing to let the Conservatives to make it all grind to a halt. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, I don't think the Prime Minister liked my idea. It's a matter of leadership. It's a matter of courage. It's a matter of consistency. We have courage. I'm simply proposing the same thing as the Prime Minister already did for the GST break. We're proposing the same thing to protect the Jewish community. We will unblock Parliament. We will pass this. We will feel good about what we've accomplished. And then who knows? If the government has other good ideas that don't interfere with Quebec, who knows? Order, please. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we always come back to this matter of so-called interference with Quebec. The Bloc Québécois thinks that an initiative that would help seniors go to the dentist involves trampling on Quebec's jurisdiction. We are here to help seniors throughout the country, including in Quebec. We are here to improve old age security for seniors over 75. We are here to invest for those who need it most. And unfortunately, even when we created childcare spots throughout the country, the Bloc Québécois only wanted to talk about interfering with Quebec. We're here for all Canadians, including Quebecers.
This week, Prime Minister has lost the control of the cost of housing, which has doubled since he became Prime Minister. And just this week, the OECD published a report showing that Toronto and Vancouver are now the two most expensive housing markets in all of North America. Vancouver's housing is significantly more expensive than Seattle, even though Vancouverites make half as much money. Toronto's housing is more expensive than New York, even though New Yorkers make 50% more. Will the Prime Minister call a housing tax election so that we can bring it home?
Hear, hear.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader has been having a rough few weeks since he promised he would be shutting down housing projects across the country. Even his Conservative MPs have been going around behind his back complaining to the CBC that they can no longer advocate for their communities, complain that they're no longer allowed to stand up for their mayors who need investments in housing in their communities. He prefers to muzzle his MPs than allow them to be their voice in their communities. His commitment to cut billions of dollars of investments from housing will not help anyone, Mr. Speaker. That's why we're delivering for Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, we don't complain to the CBC, we complain about the CBC. But I digress. The Prime Minister says that if he gives more money to local bureaucracies, they'll speed up home building. So he gave $500 million to Toronto City Hall. What happened? Home building slowed down by 40%. He gave Vancouver City Hall $115 million, and housing construction slowed down 15%. Gave $176 million to Ottawa City Hall, construction down 22%. When will he learn that what we need in this country is to build homes, not bureaucracy?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, mayors across the country, including in Conservative-held ridings, are speaking out about the reckless cuts the Conservative leader is proposing to money that municipalities need to increase densification, to accelerate permitting, to move forward on home building faster and faster across this country. The Conservative leader is standing against what his own MPs are asking for when he's telling mayors across the country he's going to pull billions of dollars away of investments in housing that will respond to Canadians' needs to be able to grow the economy and live securely for the future.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
So he gives tax dollars to big city politicians, and then he gives tax dollars to CBC to interview those big city politicians to say that they like getting the money. Well, Mr. Speaker, if giving more money to big city politicians were going to solve the problem, we'd have the most affordable housing in the world. After revenues for cities has grown twice as fast as inflation and population combined for 2 decades in a row. We don't need more money for bureaucracy and politicians. We need money in the pockets of home buyers and home builders. So why not my common sense plan to axe the sales tax, GST, and bring down housing costs by 50 grand?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're seeing the clear pattern of the Conservative leader. He picks fights with journalists, he picks fights with mayors and city councils, he even picks fights with the Team Canada approach that is standing up for Canada's interests, faced with real challenges from the incoming administration to our south. He is choosing to pick fights and divide Canadians at a time when we should be pulling together to solve the challenges of housing, solve the challenges brought in by the new American administration. These are moments for us to pull together. Unfortunately, that's something of which this Conservative leader seems incapable.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Hiking taxes, debt, and inflation to pay off politicians in exchange for press releases and photo ops will not solve the problem. What it has done is doubled housing costs and made Toronto and Vancouver the most expensive housing markets in North America, worse than New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and many other places with more people and money and much less land. So here's a choice. He's afraid of a carbon tax election. Why don't we have a different kind? Why don't we have a housing tax election where he proposes to give money to politicians? I propose to put it in the pockets of home buyers.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if he really wanted to put money in the pockets of Canadians, he wouldn't have voted against the Canada Child Benefit. He wouldn't have voted against our initiatives to cut taxes for Canadians over the next 2 months. He wouldn't have voted against initiatives like the Canada Carbon Rebate that puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadian families across the country as we fight climate change and reduce emissions. He continues to seek to divide and pick fights amongst Canadians, while we are offering solutions that both support Canadians now and build a stronger and more prosperous economy into the future. That's what we're going to keep doing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for London Left Fanshawe.
The holidays fast approaching, people in Ontario are scrambling. This Liberal government has let grocery prices soar to pad the pockets of CEOs. Canadians are paying far more for far less. Ontario food banks are cutting back. The surge in demand has surpassed the capacity and resources. Liberals have let people down. Worse, Conservatives won't fix it. They will cut and make life harder for the working class. Why are the Liberals leaning on food banks to fix the affordability crisis they created?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I remember a time when the NDP stood up for workers across this country. But when we put forward a proposal to send a $250 check to working Canadians right across the country, to anyone who worked last year and made less than $150,000, they stood against it. They said no, they won't support being there for working Canadians. Of course, we will continue to look at doing more for seniors and more for young people, but recognizing hardworking Canadians who stepped up and got us through the pandemic, got us through this inflation crisis, turning their backs on workers like the Conservatives are, is really a shame to see from the NDP.
Order, please. I'm going to ask the Honourable Member from Hamilton Centre, please, to not take the floor when not recognized by the House. The honourable member for Nunavut.
The Chiefs of Ontario are calling for improved accountability of the non-insured health benefits program and access to mental health services. First Nations and Inuit are not consulted or invited to participate when selecting cultural support providers for their communities. As a result, unqualified people with criminal records are enrolled as service providers. When will the Liberals meaningfully work with First Nations and Inuit to improve accountability and access to appropriate mental health services?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
For your question, her question, Mr. Speaker. The reality is the AFN chiefs are right now engaged in a review of the entire program. We will continue to work with Indigenous leadership across this country to make sure we are fulfilling our responsibilities, to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be healthy, everyone gets the services and supports that they need. We know this is part of the long journey of reconciliation that we have embarked upon as a country. We will continue to be there as a full partner in this and all other difficult discussions.
There we go.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, recent reporting about India's alleged interference in the Conservative Party leadership race is concerning Canadians across the country, including my constituents in Davenport. All members of this House have a responsibility to take national security seriously. That is especially true of our party leaders, including the leader of the opposition who refuses to get a security clearance. Can the Prime Minister explain the efforts to protect our national security against foreign interference?
Bravo. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Davenport for her question. Allegations of Indian foreign interference in Conservative leadership races are alarming, but they're not new. They were highlighted in the NSICOP report. They were highlighted by the public inquiry into foreign interference. Yet, the Conservative leader refuses to get the top-secret clearance necessary so he can be fully briefed up on threats to his party, to his colleagues, and to our democracy. It is inexplicable to the vast number of Canadians why he refuses to take the top-secret briefings that would keep Canada.
It's not the first time, and members know that I've asked this question of various members in the House. I'll ask the honourable member from Edmonton West, as well as the member from St. Albert, Edmonton, to please not take the floor unless requested by the chair. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister has lost control, but he's clinging to power with the help of his NDP Liberal leader coalition partner, who said, I'm going to quote the NDP leader here, he said, the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. He bemoaned the fact that the Teamsters and the ILWU were forced back to work, violating their right to strike. How can this Prime Minister cling to power with the help of someone who says he's too weak and too greedy to govern?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader has spent the last few months in this House trying to demonstrate that Parliament can't work for Canadians. He's been obstructing debate. He's been obstructing our ability to move forward on delivering for Canadians. And indeed, every chance he gets, he votes against measures that would support Canadians, whether it's the tax break that we're giving over the next few months, whether it's moving forward on dental, on a school food program, on more spots in lower price childcare. These are things he's voting against because he just wants Canadians to believe that everything is broken. Well, it's not, Mr. Speaker. We're continuing to believe in Canadians and build a stronger future together.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, Canadians want to fire that costly Prime Minister. His MPs want to fire that costly Prime Minister. The only one keeping him in power is the NDP leader, who again says the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. Oh, and now they're complaining that Canadians might choose me if there were an election. That's not their choice. It's not my choice. It's not any of their choices. That's the decision of the Canadian people. So why doesn't he turn the decision over to the people who run this country, Canadians, in a carbon tax election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, the Conservative...
Again, ask honourable members not to take the floor. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Conservative leader demonstrates that he's trying very, very hard to prevent anything from being delivered for Canadians, whether it was dental care, whether it's the tax break that Canadians are getting off the sales tax for the next few months, whether it's initiatives around childcare or a school food program. He has stood up time and time in this House again and again to vote against measures that directly support Canadians, that grow the economy, that help people out, because his political argument relies on people being broken, Canadians being divided, people being angry. That's not the way we're going to...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We'll fix everything he broke, Mr. Speaker, as my great finance critic said. And, you know, let's start with the carbon tax. The Indian Resource Council announced today they will be presenting a resolution at the Assembly of First Nations Special Chiefs Assembly to take the Liberal NDP Prime Minister's carbon tax to court. They say, we will not stand by where our communities are pushed further into poverty by the tax we never agreed to. And they want to dispel any notion that lower-income First Nations are better off with the carbon tax rebate. Mr. Speaker, why won't he listen to courageous First Nations people and have a carbon tax election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Indigenous people have been the first and have for the longest stood up to highlight the dangers of climate change, the impact of neglecting our environment, of not protecting our lands and our oceans, particularly against the previous Conservative government of which that member was a part. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, the Canada carbon rebate puts more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians right across the country. We will continue to fight climate change by putting more money in their pockets, despite the attempts of the Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He's talking down to First Nations people again. They said that they've done the research, and I quote, they want to dispel any notion that lower-income First Nations are better off with the carbon tax rebate. In rural and remote communities where First Nations live, the tax drives up their food, their heat, and their transportation bill so much that the Ontario Liberal leader, Bonnie Crombie, has said, I promise you, I will tell the Prime Minister he is wrong on issues like the carbon tax. Why won't he listen to Bonnie Crombie and other Liberals and call a carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, Indigenous peoples across this country know better than most the costs of inaction on climate change, the impacts of extreme weather events, the impacts, quite frankly, of Conservative underinvestment for years in the kind of infrastructure and supports they needed. We turned that around, Mr. Speaker. We started treating Indigenous peoples and communities as partners. We invested in fighting climate change. We're putting more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians with the Canada carbon rebate. We are continuing to make sure that protecting the environment and growing the economy for everyone goes hand in hand. That's the path forward.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister talked about seniors. Well, let's talk about them. The Prime Minister admitted that there was discrimination in increasing old age security for those 75 and over. His party says he supports our bill to end discrimination in general. He says he supports supply management, but he is not doing anything to support the swift passage of our supply management legislation. He should unblock things here in the House so that we can pass our anti-hate speech bill. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Yet another example, Mr. Speaker, of the Bloc Québécois looking to pick a fight. Meanwhile, we are delivering for Quebecers and Canadians. We are investing through dental care. We are helping seniors who have often a lot more expenses or maybe less savings. We are doing good things for all Quebecers and all Canadians. We will continue to be a partner to all. Meanwhile, the Bloc Québécois and the Conservative Party are trying to block this parliament, and they're trying to block help and support to Canadians, to Quebecers, to seniors. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. We don't want any squabbles. We do want so-called common sense. We could unblock the parliament unanimously. Here's what I want to see. I want to see each member in this place who won't rise to support a vote to put an end to hate propaganda and hate religion-based hatred. So who will vote for that bill? Will the government support it? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we've said, we're very open to discussing and debating that matter. That said, we acknowledge that there can be more than one solution. There's no easy, quick fix solution. There might be many solutions. We need to keep working together. That's why we made Bill C-63 to tackle online hate. It will protect children. There will be solutions through C-63 to fight hate speech and discrimination, especially online. We do have work to do here in this House. So why doesn't the Bloc Québécois block Conservatives from continuing their filibustering? The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Halifax longshoremen, unionized workers, have just put out a statement. On Monday, the NDP has the opportunity to reinforce that they will not bring in back-to-work legislation by supporting their own leaders' words. And below are those words in a copy of the common-sense Conservative motion calling the Liberals, quoting the NDP Liberal leader as saying, the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. Will the NDP Liberals stand with unions and vote non-confidence in this costly government?
Hey, bravo! The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We can tell, Mr. Speaker, why the Conservative leader is so desperate to bring Parliament to a halt, to prevent debate on matters that are actually going to deliver for Canadians. As we support Canadians, as we make investments that are growing the economy and showing up for Canadians, like the tax break over the next few months, the Conservative leader sees that we're actually solving some of the challenges that the global economy has tossed our way. These are things that we are focused on while he's focused on his own political partisan advantage and personal attacks. We're going to stay focused on Canadians, on delivering for them tangibly and concretely.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
His own party doesn't agree with him. He's so weak that the NDP NDP keeps him in power while the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador is attacking his energy cap. The Liberal Premier says that this reduction of 35% in Newfoundland's energy production is already sending investment away. We understand that President Trump wants to take our money in jobs. But why is the Prime Minister standing against his own Liberal Premier Newfoundland and Labrador to help Trump do it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, across the country, except on the Conservative benches, Canadians know climate change is real. Canadians are also stepping up in lots of different ways to help reduce their emissions, to grow the economy, to create a better future for their kids and grandkids. The multi-billion-dollar profitable industry that is the oil and gas industry right now has an unlimited ability to emit emissions into the atmosphere. We don't think any industry, particularly not one as wildly profitable as the oil and gas industry, should be able to have unlimited pollution. That's why we're putting a cap on emissions, not on production, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That's factually false. The industry's emissions have been regulated for decades, Mr. Speaker, and he just wants to shut down their production and give more of the money and jobs to Donald Trump and the United States of America. And then there's the electricity tax. He calls it a regulation, but now we know that it's a tax because the independent Ontario energy operator says that this new regulation tax will drive up costs for families by $175 a year and will drive factories, mines, and mills south of the border. Why is it killing jobs with high electricity prices?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our oil and gas emissions cap is a cap on emissions, not on production, Mr. Speaker. No sector should be allowed unlimited pollution, and it's unfortunate the Conservatives continue to defend that incredibly profitable sector that is costing Canadians so much. The reality is we will continue to work with the industry that is working on reducing its emissions because we know that's how we protect oil and gas sector jobs into the future, by innovating, by bringing on better technologies, and by recognizing that no sector should have a right to pollute unlimitedly.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan. Mr. Speaker, like everywhere in Canada, in my constituency, affordability is a major issue. My constituents in Alfred Pellan were pleased to hear that for the next few months they will have some relief thanks to the GST holiday. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians how this GST holiday will help them? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I thank the member for Alfred Pellan for his question. We know that the past few years have been difficult for Canadians. This is why we are offering a tax break to all Canadians. This means that Canadians won't have to pay any taxes on groceries and other essential everyday products for 2 months. It makes no sense that the Conservative leader and his caucus voted against giving Canadians a GST holiday. We want Canadians to have more money in their pockets, but the Conservatives are opposed to cutting taxes. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The Prime Minister has lost control. He's lost control of our borders and of immigration. He has, in fact, admitted so and has done a total 180 on immigration. Here's what we want to know. Will he take back control? Can he answer a very simple question? How many people stay here in Canada illegally? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, after the pandemic, we helped provinces, businesses, small businesses throughout the country. They had labour shortage issues. That's why we allowed more people from abroad to come and work in Canada. Now the situation has changed. Thankfully, our immigration system is flexible. We brought down our immigration levels to guarantee that our economy can catch up with our growth. That's totally normal, Mr. Speaker, to adjust immigration levels based on the current situation in Canada. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. His government is supposed to oversee entry and exit into this country. So here's my very easy, simple question. How many people are here in Canada illegally? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canada has always had a generous but responsible immigration system. The integrity of our immigration system has always been strong and has led to strong growth, economic growth for our country over the past decades, and we will continue to uphold the integrity of our immigration system. We put in place measures to ensure that those whose visitor's visa or other types of visas and permit expire, so to ensure that they go home. Our system will remain thorough and will keep its integrity.
Head of the government, responsible for monitoring who comes in our borders and who leaves our borders. So surely he'll be able to answer a very simple question. How many are in Canada illegally?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one of the things that has distinguished Canada from many countries around the world is our immigration system has always been supported by Canadians, by our citizens from coast to coast to coast, because it is a strong and robust system that adjusts according to the needs of our population, of our economy, of our growth paths, of our housing starts. And that is exactly what we continue to do. Where the Conservative leader is once again seeking to divide Canadians, seeking to import right-wing rhetoric from south of the border, we are going to continue to stay true to our Canadian values, deliver a strong and robust immigration system that meets Canadians' values and expectations.
I'm going to ask the honourable member from Abbotsford, please, not to take the mic. He's an experienced and well-respected member. The honourable member for Kings Hants.
Speaker, this summer, Canadians across the country were filled with immense pride watching Team Canada athletes represent us so well on the Olympic and Paralympic Games. In Kennecook, we gathered at Finley Park to celebrate Wyatt Sanford's Olympic bronze. In Rimouski, they cheered for Maud Charon, and in Victoria for the big man, Greg Stewart. That same story can be repeated for every single athlete who proudly wore the maple leaf in Paris. Can the Prime Minister explain how we are supporting our world-class athletes and why it is important to support Team Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to join my voice to those on this side of the House who are very excited that we have Olympians and Paralympians in Parliament today. Here on Parliament Hill, making sure that Canadians who've celebrated them throughout this exciting summer, watching our Olympians and Paralympians succeed and inspire Canadians is something we can continue to celebrate right now. We will always support our athletes and work to make sure they can represent their country the very best. That's why we're giving more money for our athletes, supporting pregnant athletes so they don't have to give up their careers to start a family. These are all initiatives we're working to move forward. Unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to obstruct this House and make it more difficult.
The honourable member from Churchill, Kiwatanaski.
Mr. Speaker, today we recognize the incredible hard work and dedication of our Olympic athletes. We have so much to be proud of, and that's why it was so unfair that the soccer drone scandal distracted from the fact that Canada's athletes earned the podium. Many Canadians, including former athletes, have been calling on the government to do the right thing, bring about full accountability in terms of the drone scandal and the culture surrounding it so that it never happens again. So why are the Liberals blocking efforts at accountability at the Heritage Committee? Why is this minister refusing to be accountable?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this summer we celebrated our Canadian athletes with everything we had from coast to coast to coast. It was very, very exciting. Yes, the incident with drones and Soccer Canada was extremely unfortunate. That's why there have been consequences. That's why we continue to ensure there are follow-ups on that. As the member well knows, committees in Parliament are independent and do their work independently, but we will continue to make sure that the extraordinary support that all Canadians, not just governments, but community members, volunteers give to our athletes every single day to make sure they shine continues unabated.
The honourable member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, over 135,000 passports are stuck in Canada Post warehouses or withheld by Service Canada because of the strike. As a result, many Canadians and Quebecers are anxious and they're scrambling to get their documents before they leave on holiday or visit loved ones in another country. Can the Prime Minister tell us whether there is a Plan B? Has his government planned any urgent measures in order to ensure that these Canadians receive their passports and can travel on time? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're working with both sides, both parties, to put an end to this post-Canada strike. We meet with Canada Post and with the union frequently. We want to help them resolve this dispute as quickly as possible. We know that many people are suffering from this strike, such as small businesses. As a result of the strike, we've opened more Service Canada locations. We know that this is difficult for many Canadians, and we will do everything we need to do to ensure that Canadians get their passports so that they can go on their winter vacations.
Avant qu'on passe au rappel au règlement,
Before moving to the point of order, I have a recognition in the gallery.
Presence of the gallery of the Honourable Tracy Ann McPhee, Minister of Health and Social Services and Minister of Justice for Yukon. L'honorable député de Drummond se lève.
The honourable member for Drummond is rising on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations between the parties, and I think you will find unanimous consent to the following motion: that the House affirms that no. No, I'm afraid I've already heard no's.
J'ai une liste des personnes qui veulent faire des interventions. I will recognize the honourable member in a moment. The person next on my list is the honourable member from Don Valley West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it's rare for me to rise on a point of order in this House. However, as I try to keep my head down and attempt to focus on the issues being raised, I feel the need to draw your attention to the increase in name calling during question period. Earlier today, the Leader of the Opposition referred to the member from Burnaby South by what I would consider to be an unparliamentary moniker, 2 words beginning with M, that I will not repeat here. We're about to welcome, Mr. Speaker, we're about to welcome athletes who have represented our country with excellence, with appropriate nature, and are truly honourable. And I would ask that you continue to be vigilant and ensure that the decorum in this House is maintained, and that you ask members to apologize for using ridiculous monikers with honourable members. Thank you.
Order. I appreciate the intervention from the honourable member from Don Valley West, and I did notice as well a number of monikers which are being used from various folks in this House. This is something to consider and to review, and I will take a careful note of the honourable member's intervention and come back to the House. I see that the honourable member from Nunavut is rising on a point of order.
I'm rising on a point of order. According to the House of Commons Procedures and Practice Chapter 3, this is to address the repeatedly putting on record information that is not accurate. And I would like to ask the leader of the Conservative Party to withdraw and apologize for claiming that Indigenous peoples, belong to the Conservatives. He needs to stop using terms that are possessive when it comes to Indigenous peoples, especially when he has met regularly with residential school deniers, and I do hope that he stands up to apologize to Indigenous peoples.
Thank the honourable member from Nunavut for raising this issue. I will again take a look at the record and come back to the House if necessary. Colleagues, honourable colleagues, it being 3:30, pursuant to order made on Thursday, November 7, 2024, the House will now resolve itself into Committee of the Whole to welcome Canada's 2024 Paris Olympic and Paralympic Game athletes. Chers collègues, le 7 novembre 2020.
Dear colleagues, on November 7th, 2024, the House unanimously adopted the following motion. That notwithstanding any special orders or usual practice of the House, at the expiry of the time allotted for oral questions on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, the House resolved itself into Committee of the Whole in order to welcome the Canadian athletes of the Olympic and Paralympic Games in Paris in 2024 with... I'm sorry, order please. Order please.